What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday night, 7 p.m. The Bills play tomorrow, which is not always the case on Wednesday night, but we are back for Bills Chat Live, here to run down everything Bills Dolphins related. Luka, how are you doing on this fantastic Wednesday?
It is a fantastic Wednesday. It feels like a Friday. Well, it feels like a Saturday. Nah, it feels like Friday because we got Bills football tomorrow night, and it was hard to focus on work a little bit as we were kind of, you and I didn't have many discussions in the day. So honestly, I'm intrigued where you want to go when it comes to this preview of Dolphins Bills. But I was doing a little bit of prep and just trying to get up on understanding why the Dolphins are the Dolphins right now, and truly understanding after 2 weeks. Although I've seen them each week, I've watched them closely. I mean, for instance, they were the opposite of my locks both weeks. First week, my absolute lock was Colts -1.5, my 2-unit play. And then I followed it up, doubling down with a somehow underdog Patriots money line against these Dolphins, even though it was in Miami. Still didn't make sense to me. And here we are. Both of those were correct and cashed. And I'm very intrigued to see what's going on. And I cannot wait for the game tomorrow because it feels, and we'll talk about it, but it feels like one where we might be able to kick back and relax a little bit as the game progresses. And but the vibes are also good on this Wednesday, just because also shout out Stokes there. You know, Liverpool won their Champions League opener in group play, so can't complain there either.
All right, well, we got that out of the way. Soccer talk. It's Melissa's here. We love when she's here. Stokes obviously here as well. Luka, here's my prevailing thought on the Dolphins. I have not checked the updated point spread as of today. I know it opened at 8.5 for the Bills and then very quickly shot up to 12.5. And then yesterday it was almost like, okay, we got to move this down to like 11.5 because way too much money is now coming in on Miami. I'm guessing it's still going to settle in at 11 or 12.5. Do you have the updated line on that?
I was going to look it up right now because I am curious. I believe it's still at 12.5.
Okay.
Last I checked. And honestly, I think that's where it's going to settle. I don't anticipate it going anywhere else.
Yeah, same. I think this is one of those where it's either you think this game is going to go miserable for the Dolphins and the Bills are just going to win by about 40, or you think the Dolphins are going to find a way to keep it close because Thursday night football, division, and at that stage, it really doesn't matter what you set the point spread at. It could be 20, it could be 6. It's just, is it going to be close or not? I think that's kind of where it's going to sit. And here's my prevailing thought. No matter how bad out there you think the Dolphins are, no matter how much of a train wreck you think they are, I promise you it's worse. This is a team that, I mean, some of these statistics, I need you to actually listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. The first 13 defensive drives of the season, Luka, that spans into multiple games. The Dolphins gave up points on defense. 13 drives giving up points. Most people can't even do that on rookie mode in Madden. We have a Dolphins defense right now that's best cornerback is Rasul Douglas. Now, there's a segment of Bills fans that says, well, how bad is that? Well, 3 weeks ago, he wasn't a Dolphin. He was signed off the street. This is a team that lost Cater Kohu, that signed Jack Jones off the street. And now Jack Jones, after being hurt much of camp, is starting opposite him. And he just is not a good football player at this stage. There's a lot of former Bills on this defense, by the way. Tyrell Dodson is their leading tackler. Another stat on the Dolphins that I kind of mind-boggling. We have a team that has, this is Ian Harwitz on Twitter. The Dolphins defense is tied for 30th in pressure rate, 17.9%. But they blitz the second most in the league. So think about what I just said. They blitz the second most of any team in the league. Yet when you're talking about how much pressure they actually get on the quarterback, they are the third worst in the entire sport. And that's a defense that when you start looking down, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, there's some dudes on their defense that can rush the passer. It kind of makes you wonder, why are we rushing the passer? Chops Robinson, why are we blitzing? But here we are. And then the last one here. What do we all think about when we think about the Dolphins offense? Mike McDaniel, quick passes. You're not going to be able to sack Tua. You're just not. I mean, he gets rid of the ball so quickly. This came from Next Gen Stats. In week 2, the Patriots sacked Tua 5 times and pressured him on 43.2% of his dropbacks. 43.2. They're also going to be without 2 of their starting offensive linemen in this game. Luka, on a scale of 1 to 10, understanding it's Thursday Night Football, understanding it's a division matchup, understanding all the qualifiers that you would normally be here to remind me of prior to a game like this, what is your confidence level that the Bills are going to come away with a win in this game?
9.5.
That low.
Yeah. You can't put a 10. I mean, a 10 will probably be the following week when the Saints come marching in. Oh, God, got that one in there. But this one feels pretty damn close to that. It's Thursday night. Freakish things can happen just because of the short week. On top of it, it is a divisional game. Divisional games, as I found myself discussing this past week, divisional games, if you understand college, are kind of like college rivalry games where, okay, let's say Arizona State versus University of Arizona is happening. University of Arizona is 2-10 or whatever it is. ASU's trying to get into the college football playoff. Spread is 17.5, which would be what I would equate to what the Bills currently are at, 12.5. You cannot in your right mind think that ASU is easily going to cover 17.5. Just weird things happen in those games, even though there's a clear discrepancy in the teams and talent. For whatever reason, there's just variables about that elevated game that can create these weird dynamics, tight games, things like that, where you just didn't see it coming because on paper, it just doesn't make sense that it's happening. But when you really look from the outside and you just evaluate what it is, it's a divisional rivalry. I mean, these teams have history in more competitive games and playoff games of recent with these coaches even. So there is that kind of each side knows each other. When you put aside the stats, this should still be what you would expect to be a sneaky competitive game for some stretch. That's what can happen. So I can't sit there and say 10, but I mean, everything that you laid out was perfect. Everything that you put out there was unbelievable when it comes to just painting the perfect picture and understanding just how awful things are for the Dolphins right now. I mean, it's even worse than what people could have imagined going into this, to the extent of where that opening game, the Colts line at home -1.5. There's a lot going on with that from a Colts perspective. No one understood what Daniel Jones was going to look like in that offense. There's a lot of things unknown with the Colts, but then you just assumed the Dolphins being that early season. I mean, that was indoors, that flashy, speedy team. They should be able to hang with them, if not be able to win that game. It was actually a trendy pick to take the Dolphins in that spot. And you just saw what felt like a complete different team on the field between the Colts and the Dolphins, and the Colts were just handling their business with ease. And it's just the Dolphins have no idea what's going on. I mean, the final point I'll even say is watching the Dolphins right now, these stats aren't surprising. And then there's such discouragement, it feels like, with the Dolphins personnel. You would have Tyreek Hill make a big play against the Patriots, and then immediately, I made a joke in the family room when we were watching that game. It's like you would see him call himself off the field. It's like, oh, I'm good for this. It's like it's a tight game. A dog mentality would be like, just keep me in here. I want to keep going. It was like one big play, sub off. One big play, sub off. It just, there seems to be an attitude issue even at some level that you just, I don't know what the message is coming from McDaniels at this moment, but I don't know how anyone in that locker room is respecting what's going on in front of them. And there's no sign of life for them to compete and do anything. And ultimately it's sad. It's just very, very sad what's going on in all the best ways, as someone that's a Bills fan sitting here. And I very much look forward to seeing what the absolute thrashing could be. Confidence level 9.5, because you just never know with Thursday night. I'll kick it back to you because something was going on there.
Oh, on my phone?
Yeah.
I got some feedback about how my face was looking. Thanks, Nicole out there listening, by the way. So I'm friends with a Dolphins fan, and I consider him on the same level that you and I are Bills fans. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a diehard. I think, even though it's week 3 and teams that are 0-2 should still have some semblance of hope. Luka, I believe there is a large segment, maybe even the majority of Dolphins fans who are at the point that I got to with Chan Gailey with the Bills when they went to Toronto and got blown out by Seattle. And I was rooting for Seattle because at that point, I just wanted Chan Gailey gone and I wanted him to get embarrassed. I think there's a segment of Dolphins fans that are hoping the Bills just blow their doors off tomorrow night because now you have what would be a mini bye. And I think there's fans that are tired of Mike McDaniel. There's fans that are very tired of Chris Greer. And they're just tired of the inconsistencies of the organization. As example, we've said all offseason we need to get rid of Jalen Ramsey. So by God, we're going to get rid of Jalen Ramsey. He's a distraction. Cool. Tyreek Hill is still a Dolphin. So where's the consistency there? When you look at the way the draft went, the Dolphins took Kenneth Grant, who was very high on a lot of people's draft boards. But if you know going into the offseason, you are going to get rid of Jalen Ramsey in the same offseason that you lost both of your starting safeties, you would think that a team like the Dolphins would have gone after a cornerback like a Maxwell Harrison or a Will Johnson who was still available to them, but they went after Kenneth Grant. And then when the draft doesn't fall to you in that way, maybe you pivot off your spot of still trading Jalen Ramsey, and they don't. And that's the inconsistencies we're talking about. There does seem to be a lot of frustration with Mike McDaniel. Look, I don't want to say he's Rex Ryan. He might be the polar opposite of Rex Ryan, but he's got one of those unique personalities that is just abnormal to most coaches that we see that can be endearing when it's new and you're winning. But man, oh man, is it fingernails on a chalkboard when everything is going poorly. And his laid back, like, well, we want to win every week is just, it's wearing thin on Dolphins fans. And rivalry aside, Luka, Bills, Dolphins, it's not like we have a ton of sympathy for them, but we can feel where they're coming from. We experienced the 17-year drought. We experienced a team that had Mike Mularkey walk out the door, and the best they could do is bring in Dick Duran, and then Dick Duran gets fired after getting a contract extension, and the best the Bills could do is bring in Chan Gailey, who nobody wanted anywhere, and then they go to college when the name everybody wants is Chip Kelly, and they're like, I know, we'll go down the road to Syracuse and get Doug Marrone, and then it actually works out pretty well, and he quits. So we feel that. We know where you're coming from, and they have not won a playoff game since 2000. It's a running joke for Bills fans, but we can feel where you're coming from. And if you're a Dolphins fan, Luka, enough is enough. There's an entire generation of Dolphins fans that don't remember winning the Super Bowl and going undefeated, that don't remember Dan Marino. Their high watermark might be when Chad Pennington brought them to the playoffs and got blown out by the Ravens. So this is a fan base that is just ready for tangible change, not the same change they've had over and over where we just fire, repeat, and keep doing the same thing. They want to break it all down and have something meaningful happen. And as Bills fans, how can we not relate to that?
It's incredibly relatable. I mean, they're not even the only team in the division that are running through this cyclical whatever's going on. I mean, the Jets, who we just played, are also in this purgatory of irrelevant play. I just, your coaches are a disaster. Your play is just nothing to root for. The Dolphins situation, the Mike McDaniel quirkiness, we'll call it, the writing was on the wall as soon as you saw it. Like, too cool for school, nerd, whatever you want to call it. Like, you felt, at least this is how I felt. It's like, I get it. You're trying to have a shtick. You're trying to be something. That's who you are, whatever it is. Buddy, like, earn your stripes first. Like, earn the credibility before you start letting that expression come out and be that. When the Bills had Rex Ryan and you saw that quirkiness happening, I mean, there was at least some sort of foundation there. He took the Jets to back-to-back AFC championship games. I mean, there was something of substance. He was an incredible defensive coordinator for a long time. I mean, Mike McDaniel was the run game specialist for the Niners, I believe was what his title was. He was an offensive assistant for Kyle Shanahan. That's his allure. So it's just, you don't have anything to stand on. And here you are trying to be this persona, and you wear the dumb, it can't be cold enough shirts or whatever the hell it said, and all this bull crap that it's like, you need to be able to back these things up first without even saying them before then you start bringing out the gimmicks, the quirks, the whatever you're trying to do. So the dynamic you mentioned where there's probably a bunch of Dolphins fans acting like Rob Lowe with an NFL hat on right now and just trying to realistically see this team get blown out, because the hope is they have this, as we're calling it, mini bye following the game. Their actual bye week, which is generally right before that bye week, is when you want to fire a coach. The Dolphins don't have a bye week until week 12. Ooh. This is really your only opportunity until the season truly becomes lost. You generally don't want to fire a coach through a conventional week turnaround. So, if let's say the Bills repeat the type of performance they had against the Jets tomorrow against the Dolphins, it would be incredibly difficult for Dolphins brass and the owner himself to not just be like, clear the cupboard. Let's stay afloat for now for this season, figure out the assets that we have. What can we do with them? And unfortunately for Bills fans, that probably also will include moving on from Tyreek Hill finally. And there's a clear destination for him to go to if it can work out, which would really effing suck. But it's just one of those things where it's now or never for the Dolphins. It's not literally never. It would be in 2 months' time or whatever it is, if not even potentially until the end of the year. If you get the Bills blowing the doors off of the Dolphins Thursday night, I mean, yeah, it's not going to be pretty for anyone in the front office and the coaching staff. It could be a mass exodus going on following this, because it's realistically the only opportunity for a while that the ownership would have that chance to do so within reason.
This roster the Dolphins have has so much dead money that they just lack depth. They have Tyrell Dotson starting at linebacker. They've had a very long list of unfortunate injuries. That is a fact for this team. They're without their starting right tackle. With when you think about how Tua plays, he's left-handed, so that is essentially his blindside protector. Luka, Josh Allen in his career has had some days against the Dolphins. He has a 13-2 record against the Dolphins. In fact, those 2 losses were so odd that I'm betting, without you even knowing I was going to ask you this, you can probably tell me, if with a little bit of thinking about it, what 2 games those were. Like, you could tell me something about those games, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only Tua win over Josh Allen and the Bills was the heat stroke game. I just call it, the whatever we want to call it. It's just, that's the one. The other loss, I'm honestly blanking on because it's pre-Tua. So something else had to have happened that I'm just not recalling when that was it's Allen's rookie year. So
yeah,
I'll
say one name, you'll get it. Charles Clay.
Oh yeah, no, there you go. That makes sense. And to be honest, other than a couple flash moments, Josh Allen's rookie year is one of those ones. It's kind of funny for who Josh Allen is. Mm-hmm. Not a lot memorable things going on that season, other than the hope of, well, we got this athletic freak doing things like that, and just all these other things that just made it cool. But it's also was like he threw the ball like what. I said this the other day to someone that it blew my mind that so many people just like Caleb Williams refuses to fix his throwing motion or do anything about his throwing to an NFL level. And I'm like, there is literal proof on how to do it. And somehow these guys just don't do these things that, you see a Josh Allen do. And it was like Josh Allen, his rookie year, threw a ball like a gym rat who didn't understand what his legs were. And now all of a sudden you have him with one of the prettiest throwing motions and the strongest arm all combined in one. It's like night and day difference, of course. So rookie year Josh Allen losing to the Dolphins, what a shocker. I mean, that doesn't surprise me one bit. He had a couple woeful situations that season that I'm not exactly shocked, but the only one that stands out is that heat stroke game. And that's one I remember even looking back to because I was curious. I was like, of all the games Tua himself has started against the Bills, when has he won? And that truly was the only game he won. And it wasn't even a game where you could sit there and say Tua won that game. It was the Bills were dying of heat stroke everywhere and somehow were 20 something yards away from winning the game, and then had an ensuing Dorsey, freak out to, caption it with a nice little bow at the end of it. That's the only time Tua beat this team. And that's incredible in its own right.
I'm certainly predicting a blowout. We're going to give our predictions later in the game. It feels to me like one of those games that's just going to go the Bills' way, and it's not even going to be particularly close. It's going to be a party in Buffalo. It is the last time that the Dolphins will play in this stadium that has gone from Rich Stadium to Ralph Wilson Stadium to Highmark Stadium. Um, there was another stadium in there too, wasn't there? It was
New Era.
New Era. I knew it was the
The
cap for
cap.
like 2. I was like, I knew I'm forgetting something. Um, what's the path for Miami to win the game, keep it close, keep it interesting? To me, the ultimate equalizer in football is turnovers. Splash plays, because it still is a 60-minute game. It's a game where, you're only going to have maybe 8, 9, 10 drives in a game. So if you get a high variance version of Josh Allen, where he's going to go out there and turn the ball over, or the Bills fumble a kickoff and Dolphins get a short field, that can always equalize it. To me, that is really what I think would have to take. The other one is kind of what we saw in a game that the Bills ultimately won in a blowout, in the wild card game against the Broncos, where at halftime it felt like the Bills were dominating, but the Broncos just were running the ball, and the Bills had what I think 3 possessions at halftime. If they can run the ball with Devon Achane, and I know Wright's going to be back this week. And again, I'm saying all of this knowing that they're down 40% of their offensive line, and the Bills' run defense looked significantly better last week when they weren't going against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. They were going against a normal team. I say all of that. I think it will come down to 2 things: splash plays, going in the Dolphins' favor, and the Dolphins being able to run the ball with success and chewing up the clock and limiting the Bills' offensive possessions. Because, Luka, I just don't really see a path to Miami having success against the Bills on defense. They just don't have the dudes. I know people say it's not X's and O's, it's Jimmy's and Joe's, and sometimes I roll my eyes at it. This game feels like this is a dead set. It's the Jimmys and Joes that are going to cost Miami in this one.
You look at Miami's defensive side of the ball and you genuinely wonder how in the world they're going to even create a stop. And the only way they're going to get a stop is either the Bills just screwing up offensively to the point where they force themselves to punt, and or they do turn the ball over somehow. And it would be the Bills turning the ball over, not the Dolphins creating the turnover. That's what it ultimately feels like. So yeah, the only way for the Dolphins, in my eyes, to stay competitive in this game, catch the Bills off a little bit. I mean, Devon Achane is truly the X factor to me. I mean, he showed even last week. I believe I mean, this is just what I caught in the corner of my eye when it happened. Being all games were on, he lined up at slot receiver, caught a quick slant and housed it at one point. It was like, he is the X factor offensive weapon that, just move him around, and he's the fastest guy out there. He is as fast, if not faster, than Tyreek Hill at this point. He is an incredible athlete. He is fast AF, and he is just he is the biggest dog they have offensively, that you need to be able to control the game utilizing him and also get some big plays out of him. Like, you have to do, it's kind of like that marriage of both things. You can't have all these big plays, but then also control the game, because you're just handing the ball back as soon as you score anyways. You would have to score every time in order to make that effective. So I don't genuinely know where that truly can happen for the Dolphins outside of, I mean, Devon Achane having like a top 10 fantasy performance of all time. Like that is realistically, to me, that's how the Dolphins stay in this game. Devon Achane has to be historic in how dominant he is for that team. And what I will say as a counterpoint to that is, we saw McDermott do exactly what McDermott and Babbage have done recently, and McDermott just throughout his entire tenure do perfectly last week against the Jets. He looked at tape. He understood the Jets. He goes, I don't really believe this whole Justin Fields passing the ball thing. I'm going to absolutely commit everything resource-wise to stopping your run. Justin Fields, try to beat me with your arm. And he'll look at a singular thing. He'll attack the hell out of it and make you do something else about it. When it comes to the Dolphins, McDermott's had this script perfectly the whole time. It's emphasize pressure, emphasize the line of scrimmage, and making sure that the runners can't get going. And then from there, you're disrupting Tua off that first read. Everyone in the NFL knows Tua's weakness. Get him off his first read. If you get Tua off his first read, he cannot improvise. He can't do anything. He genuinely has a panic attack back there, and he will do something really stupid with the ball and or just be sacked. That is just the Tua script to a T. So it's hard to be threatened by that. It feels like one that the Dolphins, unfortunately for them and fortunately for us, just perfectly fit into what we like to do defensively. And that's supposed to be their strength, is their offense. And now they're coming in with one of the weakest offenses they've had to date. And on top of it, an absolute no man show of a defensive unit right now, where one of their best defenders is a guy that we were not willing to bring back even on a cheaper deal in Rasul Douglas. And honestly, if your best guy is your outside boundary corner against us, you're going to have some problems, because we're not exactly a team that has to depend outside the numbers to be successful. We can, as we saw last week, we can do it a multitude of ways. We don't even need 17 to be Superman. We can get it done, and we will do it however is needed. And I can't even fool myself in trying to think where else, other than Achane having an absolute superhuman day, where else the Dolphins could even be competitive in this game, unless the Bills, as you even pointed out, and as I said, just continuously shoot themselves in the foot and do things stupid on their own accord. It will not be because the Dolphins influence. They will be doing it to themselves.
Well, there's the human nature aspect of it, where you're a Buffalo Bills team that knows what the other team looks like across the field from you. You're on national TV, Amazon Prime, by the way, if you're outside of the Buffalo market, and it'll be on local channels if you're in Buffalo. The Bills passing game was not the reason why they won last week. It was very quiet for the passing game. You could see a scenario where the Bills come out with the mindset of, we're going to pad our stats. We're going to let Keon get his. We're going to let Kincaid get his. We're going to get Shakir going. We're going to get Palmer going. And that can backfire. There's ways that could backfire. We're talking about extreme examples here, but this is a very determined, professional, mature Bills team. I don't see them getting wrapped up in the style points of these wins. Luka, is there a Bills win tomorrow? I'm not saying like, yeah, they win, but like they won like the Bengals did last week, where they lose their quarterback for 3 months. Is there a Bills win that could have you in a bad mood, assuming no injuries happen? Or is it just gonna be, it's week 3, it's Thursday Night Football, it's a division matchup, get the win and move on with your life?
As an absolute known hater to Thursday Night Football, I don't care what the quality of the product is, because I'm expecting a lesser quality product. I'm just going to be very transparent with that fact. I don't like what Thursday Night Football does to teams, even at the highest level. That's why my confidence level was even only 9.5. I just think there's certain dynamics that get lost because of what happens throughout the entire week of a, game week, rather than now shrinking it down for a Thursday night week. So no, and we're also early enough in the season, Josh, that I genuinely just don't. Is it nice to win big? Is it nice to do the big things and dominate for 60 minutes and this and that? Sure. A win is a win at this rate. Just compile the wins, keep things going, and get over the line how you need to. If the Bills somehow go out there, do let the Dolphins remain close and say win by a walk-off field goal, I'll have questions. But also, again, I will genuinely look at it like it was Thursday. It was a Thursday night game. Josh Allen, maybe there's even something going on with his broken nose that's affecting him. He's wearing a visor potentially for the first time in a game. I mean, there's a lot of different little nuances to this game that it's like, just get out of there with a win. As long as they're healthy and they win, I really don't see what the outcome could be that I would be too upset. There can be question marks. There can be concerns, individual performances that are raising alarms. How is the defensive line doing again? Is Bosa still dominating, which he should absolutely keep being an absolute menace this week, you would imagine, with his matchup. But ultimately I just get out of there with a win, move on to the Saints after a long week, and let's keep this train rolling.
Speaking of injuries, the Bills do have some injury news this week. Matt Milano and Ed Oliver are both out. Oliver is no surprise. He missed last week's game with an ankle injury, and it was worded in a way that you kind of just expected he was going to go ahead and not be ready 4 days later. Matt Milano injury popped up kind of surprising a bunch of folks. It was a pec injury, and those can have a wide range of outcomes. I think we'll know by kickoff how severe the Bills think this injury is if they put him on injured reserve before the game starts. Remember, injured reserve in season is a minimum of 4 games. So the Bills, if they think it's going to be at least a 4-week injury, will want to start that clock sooner rather than later to not only free up an extra roster spot, but to make it to where Milano could come back 4 games from now instead of having to wait until the weekend to do it. And then you've lost the Dolphins game and then the 4 games after. If the Bills don't put him on IR prior to the game tomorrow, Luka, I think it's a pretty clear sign that this is more of a couple week injury. But it's never a good time to lose 2 of your best defensive players. However, when you look at the Bills' schedule and it's Miami this week and it's Spencer Rattler and the Saints the next week, and then it's the Patriots coming here who had to squeak by to beat the Dolphins on a kickoff return the week after, and then you're going to Atlanta, who does look better, but I think they took advantage of a Minnesota team that doesn't have the horses up front. This is definitely the part of the schedule where the Bills should be able to be extra conservative with injuries. I'm of the mindset where, say, someone like Joey Bosa, if he has a hangnail, go ahead and take the game off, Joey. We need you 100% in January. But anything concerning you, the wording coming out about Ed Oliver, Matt Milano, obviously there's nothing to know about Milano until tomorrow. But overall, what's your concern level knowing what's behind those guys?
We've seen the Bills and McDermott be very conservative with injuries, especially earlier parts of the season. They haven't even let tough stretches of a schedule affect their decisions when it comes to injuries on an early stretch of the season. So now you take into the account of what you're saying, where, look, it's the Dolphins tomorrow night. It's the Saints the following week, the Patriots on Sunday night, the week after that. You can manage and handle these things. You would like to believe, if you are the team that you are, getting by without a couple guys. If you have Matt Milano and Ed Oliver, as we have currently right now, out, and say they're at, let's say, 65 to 70% right now, early stretch of the season, are you really feeling that you will not be able to get by the Dolphins and Saints without these individuals, even if they were only at 65 and 70%? You are not the team you believe yourself to be if that is the case. You want them to be as 100% as possible, especially once the games start mattering. So to your point, and to add on, anyone in this game, even if you pull up with a little bit of soreness, tightness, whatever it is, things like that, Joey Bosa, especially Joey Bosa, is like getting to the point where I'd almost be happy to see him rest for the next 3 weeks. I mean, you don't want that because you just want him to still keep going and be good. But it's like, put him on a pitch count, do something, that wrap him in bubble, make him wear 4 sets of pads everywhere, covering everything, where now he's actually just a Stay Puft man out there, but at least he's protected. It's just, you need him healthy when the games actually get hard and matter more. It's like, you can get by Spencer Rattler and the Saints without Joey Bosa. You can get by those teams without Ed Oliver and Matt Milano. I'm pretty sure Dorian Williams will be perfectly fine in a Milano spot for the Saints. I would like to believe that we are that above the Saints and what they would be able to do to us from an offensive perspective. So yeah, injuries right now, it doesn't surprise me any sort of caution. It doesn't surprise me the kind of safe way they're going about it. And it's, look, just get through these, keep this roster as healthy as possible, and just I am for the weeks 1 through 10, 11, whatever it is. Be conservative with your injury report. Make sure guys are able to get as healthy as possible, because this team is not really concerning themselves, unless things get too out of hand, with games in September, October, even November. We're concerning ourselves with December when, seeding and division championship is on the line. And then from there, once the playoff games roll around in January, that's when, you need all your dogs to eat. So for now, perfectly okay seeing all the cautious and safe measures they're taking with injuries.
Troy Thomas in chat saying he'll be at the Saints game. First time at Highmark. Troy, I hope you have a good time. Should be a fun Bills game. One of the few times early on that you get the Bills at home at 1 p.m. in this early schedule, because then they come, home against the Dolphins on Thursday night. Then after that, they're home against the Patriots. The Kansas City one is home at 4:30. So one of the few home 1 p.m. slots in this final season at Highmark. So have a great time. Speaking of the Bills schedule, it may have actually gotten easier this week, Luka, because it seems like if the math is right, that Joe Burrow is not going to be with the Bengals when they come to Buffalo later this year. Just this Bills schedule, the way the Chiefs started off 0-2, already having the win against Baltimore in your back pocket. Are we at a point right now, barring catastrophe injury wise, where it's what number 1 seed or bust?
I hate saying something or bust. I have a real problem with, I'm not saying that like, oh, I hate that you just asked me this question. It's just, I feel as if your goal is to the standard in line that the Bills have themselves, things can happen out of your control that ultimately take the 1 seed away from you. I mean, that is a reality to how things are going. Do I think, as Troy and what you just put up on the screen, is that kind of the way to go about it? Yes. Is it ours to lose currently right now as we sit here week 3? 1000%. That's how valuable, of course, that game, that week 1 game was. So you sit here and you do that, but there's still a ton of football left. And there's just a lot of things that could go on that it's like, look, if injuries start piling up for the Bills and or just a couple weird, freakish things happen result wise that unfortunately lead to a loss that you can't even sit there as a Bills fan and think, oh, that was terrible. Like you lose to the Chiefs, who are right now going to be as desperate as they've been in the Mahomes era. Like things like that can happen that ultimately take it away from you. And you wouldn't sit there and be like, oh, it's a bust of a season. You'd just be like, look, certain things happened and ultimately you now find yourself there. It's about getting to January in the best position possible, but you have to get into it. And then from there, just win out. Whatever your path is, you just got to win out. It takes a little bit of luck to get there even in the first place, but then it takes a little bit of luck to get through it, as we've seen, because ultimately one play can dictate everything. As you know, an official can unfortunately call you just short for whatever reason, even though it really feels like you're not. And that ultimately leaves you just short of your goals. So it's, I love the idea that it's 1 seed or bust. I will say that, but it's not truly just that. I think the Bills are in control of their destiny when it comes to the 1 seed. From there, a lot of football left to still be played.
So for me, the 1 seed represents multiple things. No, I'm not scared of Browning. I think he actually, you could make the argument Browning could be the second best quarterback in the AFC East if he was in the division. I'm kidding. I still like Drake May. But I think he's a high-end backup. And I think Cincinnati's going to stay in the race with him. I really do. I think when you look around this AFC, there's a lot more bad teams than we initially thought. Houston, malpractice what they've done to that offensive line. The advanced numbers on CJ Stroud, even kind of dating back to his rookie year, are starting to kind of show maybe he wasn't like the second coming that we thought he was. I'm not. Denver, to me, last week, what happened against Indianapolis, to me, Denver's supposed to have that elite defense and just get enough out of their offense. So where's that elite defense? Chargers are interesting. But the thing that the 1 seed does, it doesn't only get you an automatic spot in the second round. It should, assuming things line up the way that we think they will, make it to where Baltimore and Kansas City face off in round 2, and the Bills face off against a mortal team, if you want to say it that way, with a mortal quarterback. Now, that could be Justin Herbert this year, who enters the elite quarterback conversation, and maybe there are 4 teams in the AFC. But that to me, and then all your games are at Highmark, where the Bills haven't lost since the 2023 playoffs.
Yeah,
against Kansas City. All right. What's going on in chat? You introducing load management to later in the season, make sure Baltimore isn't. Yeah, I mean, load management. We're kind of joking around about that. Obviously, like someone like Joey Bosa, when the Dolphins give up 5 sacks last week to the Patriots, he's going to want to stack sacks if he can. But my thought on Joey Bosa or Taron Johnson or Matt Milano, any player that's had an injury history for these Bills, err on the side of sitting. I think they did that with Taron Johnson last week, Luka. I think that Taron Johnson probably could have played last week, but because they had a quick turnaround, because they're like, okay, running team on Sunday, throwing team on Thursday, we're going to just make sure Taron Johnson can go. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Lewis sits this week because they're both questionable. So things to think about. Let's get into our predictions for this game, and then we'll kind of kick it around the league because there are some exciting matchups. And the other thing about that 1 seed is Baltimore plays the Lions this week, and then the week after that, it's Baltimore and Kansas City.
Yeah.
So The Bills are either going, if they do what we think they're going to do, beat Miami and beat the Saints, they'll be 4-0, and they'll either be 3 games up on the Chiefs or 2.5 games up on Baltimore. So
Crazy.
it's quite the head start. All right. Yeah, the Chiefs do get Rice and Worthy back. I'm not counting out the Chiefs. In fact, I remember I was watching First Take this week. I had a moment where my brain was just like, why am I doing this? Um, Damian Woody, for whatever reason, was asked about, like, is it time to believe in Justin Herbert? And I think it was Damian Woody that said, they haven't beaten anybody good yet. That they beat the Chiefs. Like, they beat the Chiefs. What are we doing? And credit to Marcus Spears, who, like, put his hand on his head and said, "You guys are doing it again." It's like, yeah, they've beaten somebody good. The team that's been in the last 3 Super Bowls, yeah, they beat them. So that's a good team, okay?
Yeah.
Ugh, I just can't over this. Go Giants this week. We'll talk about that game certainly. That's coming up. Luka, Bills Dolphins this week. Last checked, 11.5-point spread. I'll go first on my prediction. I think the Bills cover this spread, cover it pretty easily. I'm going to say the Bills win this game by a score of 38-13. I don't think Miami's going to have much going, maybe early on. This to me feels like a Dolphins team that's been on the brink of quitting just from some of the things you hear coming out of training camp, players being unhappy. It sure seems like that Tyreek Hill wants to get out of there, but people may not want to trade for him. It seems like McDaniel is a dead man walking as far as his job goes. Players can sense that, and if they're tired of listening to him, they know the quickest way to get him out of there. I mean, the motivation seems like it's at an all-time low. You've talked about the Miami flu before. That does not seem like an ideal city to be home base whenever you don't have much to play for. So yeah, I think this one's going to get ugly. I do think it's going to go the way we expect it to. I expect Josh Allen to have his usual big game performance against Miami. I think Keon Coleman has a big game. And I think maybe even Dalton Kincaid has a big game as well. I think those are 2 players that the Bills really want to feature this year, and this is a really good opponent to get that going against.
If Dalton Kincaid has a big performance, Josh, are we just going to start calling him a Thursday night player like we used to call Ed Oliver the Thanksgiving player? Because it seems like his biggest performances only seem to come on Thursday nights. Like that's what it would get to the point of with me. No, I was trying to come up with a score in my head that made sense. And spoiler alert, Bills win. I really believe that the spread, everything I said about it earlier in the episode and how you can't overlook it. It's that college rivalry kind of aspect when it comes to divisional games where it feels a little outlandish and disrespectful even to the underdog in this matchup to have a point spread like that in a divisional game. And then the score that popped in my head, Josh, was 48-16. So I don't know where ultimately I land, but I'm going to say I lean to the 48-16. So I'm just going to go with that score. Do I think the Bills will actually put up 48? No, I think if they're at the high 30s and the Dolphins are barely above 10, if at 10, they're probably going to pull the dogs off a little bit and use this opportunity to even rest people more. So that's the reality of it. But this is going to be, in my eyes, a very comfortable game for the Bills come mid third quarter. This is going to be one where, in all honesty, I'm going to be thinking about what's going on my Friday work schedule and should I go to bed early, which I won't, but that'll cross my brain at one point in time. Should I be the responsible adult in this case, or should I just continue to watch this onslaught of the Dolphins? And I'll watch it all the way through the end because more than not, I'm going to want to see the Fitzpatrick interview of Josh Allen. That's what it will come to. And on Fitzpatrick's note, like I'm curious to hear, Josh. I don't know if you've heard or saw on Twitter, but Fitzpatrick and Eric Wood are hosting a live event that won't be streamed or anything, but they're at Wayland Brewing Company in Orchard Park tonight just to interact with fans and hang out. I think that's super cool. If you're in the Orchard Park area, go to Wayland. First off, their beer's good. Second off, Fitzpatrick and Eric Wood will be there just having a fun time. So just if you're still sitting here now, thanks for watching. Thank you so much. But also, if you're at Wayland Brewing Company, I'd love to hear about it if you're watching this after the fact. And if you're sitting here watching us live and stuff like that and catch this real quick, might want to check out, see what the hell's going on over there, because that seems like a fun time. But yeah, I'll be watching Josh Allen and Fitzpatrick post game more than caring about anything that happens in the fourth quarter. In my scenario, where, to recap, 48-16 is where I believe that score will be. Bills win.
If you want a taste of what it sounds like when Fitzpatrick and Eric Wood get together for a live event that's non-televised, use the internet skills you have. It's not hard to find, and find the Fred Jackson roast that
Yeah,
WGR put on about 5, 6,
shout.
7 years ago. Yeah, Fitzpatrick was a guest roaster there, and holy cow, was he good. Holy cow, was he good. I don't even know if some of the stuff he did would be PC now, but everybody was tears laughing, and it's amazing. It's on YouTube. Let's talk about some of the other games going on around the NFL. And we did talk about Giants and Chiefs. Look, I do believe this one feels like a Chiefs get right against the Giants team. But despite the fact that Dallas went through them like a hot knife through butter last week, I still believe that this Giants defense is on the better side of good. And I do think that they can keep the Giants in almost every game, including this one, where I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily going to be able to just stack points on them. Um, Boy, I would love to see the Giants pull this upset. I don't know that I believe it can happen, but you and I are going to be recording Bills chat, watching it on Sunday Night Football, rooting like hell for it. What kind of odds do you give the Giants for pulling this one off?
How much am I enjoying Sexy Dexy and feeling sussy for Russie? Oh boy. Here, let me put it this way. If the Chiefs beat the Eagles on that 4:00 game, if that happened, I would be more enticed to say the Giants stand a chance, a puncher's chance kind of deal. The problem is you have the Chiefs at their most motivated point right now of desperation, and the stats are out there as how hard it is to be 0-3 and make the playoffs. The Chiefs understand that, and they're too damn good to be playing the Giants and somehow lay yet another stinker. They already have lost 3 consecutive games in the Mahomes era, the first time ever, going back to the Super Bowl. Now they're playing the Giants. I would love nothing more than the Giants, Dable, Russell Wilson, Malik Neighbors, everyone putting on a performance and winning that game. I would probably put it in the 22% chance. It's 1 in 5 just feels like that ballpark. I mean, would love to see it. We'll be rooting for it. Like you said, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. Any disrespect you hear out there is just childish until proven otherwise. This would be the game that truly would start raising the flag of question when it's like, is the Chiefs dynasty over? If they do not beat this Giants team, there will be some serious questions as to what's going on over there in Arrowhead. And I just don't see it really realistically.
Giants are only 5.5-point dogs. Now they are at home. The Meadowlands home is not always necessarily the strongest home field advantage. But I thought that was interesting. All right. I'm with you. It's hard for me to see it. If it's close late though, look out. Like that.
Yeah.
This is one I think the Chiefs need to pull away from. And that's not necessarily their calling card, because I think they'll start getting tight. And you've seen some cracks in the Chiefs foundation, in my opinion. Kelsey dropping a ball, losing his mind on the sidelines. Chris Jones acting like an idiot.
Yeah.
Two weeks in a row, really. Week 1, when I forget the linebacker, was it Drew Tranquil that called him out for, messing up the run play, messing up his run fit, and he lost his mind. And then 2, talking shit to Jalen Hurts while he's kneeling out about how he has less than 100 yards. Hurts is like, we won the game. Shut up. It's like, I'd be embarrassed that I lost to a team that only passed for 100 yards. But, whatever. It doesn't have to mean anything. This could certainly be the team that represents the AFC. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, just to put a little salt on it, or just sprinkle on a little hope, if you'd like to call it. Last time the Chiefs went to the stadium, they played the Zach Wilson Jets in a primetime spot. And they actually found themselves in a competitive game where they really needed to make a couple plays and even have a little bit of help from their best friends wearing those stripes. to ultimately get that win over the line. So anything is possible. I mean, that truly is. And I remember watching that game. If I remember correctly, I think the Jets even came out to a lead. Like they started out hot. Zach Wilson was actually like throwing the ball. We're like, is this the Zach Wilson that's going to be the turning point? And then he remembered who he was, and he kind of regressed from there live in the game. But they gave the Chiefs everything they had, and that's the Jets with Zach Wilson at the helm. So it's not like the Chiefs have been comfortable playing at the Meadowlands in the past recently, even when they were at their peak of winning. So it will be interesting. But as you said, they do need to come out hot. If they don't come out hot, and this is a game into halftime going into the second half, you even wonder if like there's going to be people looking around on the Chiefs sideline just being like, who's going to finally do something for us? And the guys that you used to think, if Travis Kelce, I mean, he looks like a shell of himself at the moment. At any point, that Hall of Famer can come back out, but right now he's an absolute nobody compared to who he usually is.
Speaking of 5.5-point spreads, the Baltimore Ravens on Monday night, what a beauty this is to close out the week, play host to the Detroit Lions. I still envision this one being a blowout. There's something about when the Lions get outdoors against a tough physical team that make me think they're going to be overmatched. But still, this is a battle of two teams that are probably in anybody's top 6, 7 teams in the sport. And the Lions certainly have a shot to beat them. They match up in areas that the Ravens usually overwhelm people. They have a good defensive line. They have a good offensive line. It'll be interesting. And boy, oh boy, if we can get a Ravens loss against Detroit, and both the Chiefs and Ravens have 2 losses heading into next week, that would be a thing of beauty. The Patriots take on the Steelers, 1-1 teams. I'd love to see the Steelers win this one, just because kind of bury the Patriots. But then also, what's the intrigue for the Week 4 Monday night game if the Patriots are sitting there at like 1-3 coming to Buffalo? But at the end of the day, not my problem. That one's somewhat interesting. Anything else out there, Luka, that you're looking forward to next week? I mean, I was going to say, who's Green Bay play? And I saw they go to Cleveland. That's not going to be overly exciting. I guess the other one I wanted to talk about is Houston going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is coming off just really a regrettable loss last week where Joe Burrow gets knocked out and they still blow the lead. I thought Trevor Lawrence played a really good game and his receivers let him down multiple times in that game. But they have a chance, in my opinion, to put one of the nails in the Texans' coffin, because the Texans start off 0-2, miserable loss on Monday night against the Bucs, and they just cannot protect CJ Stroud. Now they go to Jacksonville. If they lose this game, 0-3, especially with as good as the Colts look and competitive as the Jaguars look, it's going to be a long season for Houston. So I'm interested in that. And then, really, I think this could be the Chargers and Broncos. Let's find out which of you two is ready to go take the mantle from the Chiefs. They have their first matchup this week. What's your favorite matchup this week?
What's funny is this slate has some weird ones. So like Bengals, Vikings. All right. And I'll touch on like Lions, Ravens by far is the market.
Boy, if you bought tickets to that game 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. Bengals, Vikings is a much different look, but I will say this, the battle of the backups in this is an incredible dynamic. Browning is, in my opinion, a top 5 backup quarterback in this league. He is a premier backup. Like he has shown numerous times that he can run this offense, operate it, throw the ball efficiently to the great receivers that are there. He can do the things you need him to. He can't be that Joe Burrow. Of course, there is only one Joe Burrow, but he can at least get you by and win games. I mean, he has proven that to be fact. And then you have the Vikings, Josh. And there is the Carson Wentz fan in me from draft season that is like, oh my God, you now have him in the hands of the best QB whisperer currently in the sport in Kevin O'Connell. With Justin Jefferson and that offense? Oh my God. There is just so much intrigue in that game. And the fact that it's buried in the 1:00 slate is even more beautiful, that it's not randomly just this Sunday night game because they thought it was going to be Burrow versus Justin Jefferson and newcomer JJ McCarthy with Kevin O'Connell and all this. But like that could have been a game in the offseason that the schedule makers looked at it in week 3 and were like, oh my God, this could be such a good one to put on primetime. Just fireworks everywhere. It's like it's buried in the 1:00 slate, and that might be the best scenario for these quarterbacks and everything going on in it. I'm very, very intrigued by that one. Colts, Titans. It's an internal battle for me. So going into the season, I was a little bit of a Colts believer, but I was very much a Titans are going to be much better this season. You can't start 0-3 as we've talked about numerous times. Titans had a very tough loss where Cam Ward played great in Denver. It just couldn't happen because his receivers severely let him down. And then against the Rams last week, they were in it for a bit and they were making plays. And Cam Ward had a sweet touchdown pass. But it's like ultimately they got outclassed by the Rams, a couple bad turnovers, and it got out of reach. But I felt like that game was closer than what the score showed. So I look at that matchup and it's like it's a battle of wills of are the Colts truly going to run away with this division? If they win this game, it will feel like that. Or are the Titans going to kind of punch here and then show like, hey, Colts, you're not everything. And then in my eyes, I think the Titans are still a sneaky little guy in this division that could maybe rattle together some wins with a fourth place schedule and do something right now. I know people don't like this stuff, but I am intrigued by it because of my own personal opinions. But the marquee matchup, the one we've already talked about, I'm very excited for. Lions at Ravens. What I will be intrigued about is how the Lions offense looks because Josh, I don't know if you heard the reports and what Gibbs said following the Packers loss that they had. He said communication was what let us down. Communication was terrible. We didn't have a good plan that was with communication, all this and that. That's going to be a known thing on the road. And it almost kind of shows why the Lions might not be a road team at all. Yes, it could be because it's outdoors. Yes, it could be because of all these other variables. But at the same time, are they just an offense that really just doesn't quite understand how to communicate without being able to vocalize everything because you're on the road and you can't combat the noise? I mean, this, though, feels like a game where their confidence is back. Their swag is back, of course, after the absolute beatdown of Ben Johnson and getting salty Ben Johnson off their field quick and not even saying hi to anyone on that team, which wild. Ben Johnson not shaking Goff's hand or even looking at him in the eyes that's something to me. That tells me a lot about a person, but I digress. I will be intrigued to see if the Lions learn their lesson from playing in Green Bay with what that environment was like in this hostile environment in Baltimore, because I do think the Lions have a good enough team, of course, to give the Ravens fits. It's just, are they going to be able to correct the things they learned 2 weeks ago on that Monday night game when you have a ruckus crowd in Baltimore? I'm not sure, but there is a part of me that feels like it's absolutely more possible than it feels following that Packers game. I will say that. I think that Packers Lions game to start the season is a little bit of a liar. I mean, it's a week 1 game, so it's a liar in its own right, but that was not the Lions team I believe we will see for the remainder of the season. I don't think we'll see a 50+ point offense week in, week out either. But I think what we saw this past Sunday against the Bears and the level of efficiency they had, that's a lot closer to what they will be, when water finds its level and who we see on a week in, week out basis, that I would expect more of that competitive nature Lions team on Monday night in Baltimore.
One of the games you mentioned there was Colts Titans. As somebody who follows the Colts kind of closely, let me tell you about how the Colts have been since Andrew Luck left. They historically will give you hope and then look really good against a good opponent, and then they'll go on the road and lose to just an abysmal team. Think back to 2021 when they come to Buffalo with Carson Wentz and blow the doors off of the Super Bowl contending Bills. And Jonathan Taylor has like 5 touchdowns in that game. And then they end that season, all they had to do was beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville to make the playoffs. And that's the Urban Meyer season where Jacksonville was just a train wreck and they lost. They beat the Chiefs at home a couple years ago and then go on the road and lose to the Titans. They seemingly never can beat the Jaguars on the road. So I'm not predicting the Colts lose this game. What I am predicting, though, is that Colts fans probably, to a crazy extent to the rest of us, feel this is a spot that they're braced for being let down. And if the Colts can get this one to the garage, the road game against the bad team that they're supposed to be better than, then maybe this is a new year. I'm kind of bracing for maybe the Colts are going to regress back. I hope I'm wrong because I have always kind of liked the Colts, but we shall see. I mentioned early in the show, as we wrap this up, I have a buddy who I work with who's a diehard Dolphins fan. Send him a text before the show started, Luka. Give me a quick update on the Dolphins. What are you thinking? How bad is it? Okay. There's my text right there. Okay. This is his response. Just
grandpa mode with
this.
Zoom in.
This is his response.
My goodness.
Yeah. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because we don't have that much time left in the show, but I'm gonna hit on some high points. O-line is really bad. It's two starters that are out, but then they've lost all their depth. Larry Barome had a miserable camp, probably would have been cut, but now he's starting and protecting the blind side because they have nobody else. Secondary is what he calls nuclear. Thought that they would draft a cornerback or safety high, but they didn't, even with Ramsey on the roster. Then they still trade him. They did get Minka Fitzpatrick out of the Ramsey deal, but he's not in his prime anymore. And then when Kohu goes hurt, it's just been a disaster. They also brought in Artie Burns, a disaster. And now Melifanu is signed, and he's not going to be able to play. Jack Jones was signed. He got hurt. He should be able to play. They signed Rasul Douglas off the couch. He's their best cornerback. Jason Marshall, their 5th-round pick, never played slot corner at all in college, is now their starting slot cornerback. Hello, Khalil Shakir. And James Daniels went down from the 3rd play of scrimmage. Austin Daniels lasted to the 2nd quarter of their first preseason game.
It blows my mind. That's a wild text. It blows my mind on honestly looking at it a little bit under the hood. Jack Jones, ASU alum, forks up, shout out. Although he's a little bit of a wild card.
A little bit.
He is known for being an aggressive man press.
He's aggressive, all right.
On your hip cornerback. Just football terms only here.
Gun to the airport. And
seems like a good guy that, and at ASU, for what it's worth, played slot at times, depending on if the matchup called out for it. And he feels like the individual that you might want to test in there if you're really thin in the secondary, rather than just sticking him out on the boundary, especially in a matchup like the Bills, where, you know, your number one receiver is Khalil Shakir, even outside of what the stats say last week. And then you're going to see healthy Kincaid going on in there. Like, the inside the numbers is where the Bills like to observe first and see how the game is going and stuff. Feels like I don't know why at this point in time, when you're that thin at corner, that you wouldn't really try that out or keep that the way it is or whatever it is, and just have Jack Jones be a little bit more on the hip of Shakir, disrupt that part of the game. It is interesting to me that they're putting a guy who's unfamiliar with the position when you have at least someone like a Jack Jones build that could get you by if you needed in that position. That's a fun little tidbit that he just randomly put in there that it sparked in my brain. It's like, oh yeah, Jack Jones. I forgot. One, totally forgot that he was a Dolphin for that matter. But two, it's like, that feels like a guy that would be actually, I mean, average at best, but in the slot, it's better than what they're getting out of Marshall Jr., a day 3 pick.
All right, let's do some quick hits. Josh Allen has been turnover free this season. Will he be turnover free after this game is over?
Yes.
Okay, will somebody other than Josh Allen and James Cook score a rushing touchdown for the Bills in this game?
No.
Okay, I like that. I think you have to really get to garbage time or just, a random, because they did the Elijah Moore screw you Jets run last week.
Yeah, I am not counting, Mitch Trubisky under center, Ray Davis behind, and the game's 40-10. Like, I'm not counting that. I'm saying in competitive snaps where Josh Allen is still under center, is someone else going to get a rushing touchdown? No.
Tua got sacked 5 times last week. Will some member of the Bills defense have more than 1 sack?
Yes. Yeah. This reeks of a Joey Bosa blow up furthermore kind of game. Like, he is, we talk about Prater with the hot foot there, Josh. I think Bosa's got the hot hand right now when it comes to rushing the passer.
Not Josh Allen, not James Cook, not Joey Bosa. What Bill will we be talking about on our post-game show as the guy who's in consideration or the guy who won the game's MVP?
Ooh, that's a great one. I'm going to go with Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman can have a big, big day in this kind of matchup.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to go with TJ Sanders. You and I were talking before this game. The Dolphins might have the worst set of starting guards that we have ever seen in the sport. So I think this is a great Milano. Costa? Maybe. Let's see. Hey, Josh and Luka, longtime caller, first-time listener. Okay. TJ Sanders, to me, is a great opportunity to push the pocket from the inside. I do think that if you're going to get to 2, it can be up the middle. They have really bad guards, really, really suspect interior offensive line play. I do like the Joey Bosa call, but obviously I took him out of it. Also, Greg Rousseau seems to always play really good against Miami. It's like he likes to show off for his
Yeah.
old college town. And I saw a stat posted by a Bills account, and I always try to play nice on Twitter, but it was hammering Greg Rousseau for the slowest timed pressure rate among defensive ends in the sport this year. So, like, basically from snap to getting pressure on the quarterback, how many seconds does it take you to get there? He's among the worst defensive ends in the sport. They played Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields, folks. Defensive linemen against those teams are not just going balls to the wall trying to beat their man and hit a stationary quarterback in the pocket. There are a lot of layers to what defensive linemen are supposed to do, particularly against Lamar Jackson. And a lot of it is just like kickoff coverage. Stay in your lane. Don't let him escape.
I think that'll change a little bit playing, let's see here, Tua Tagovailoa, Spencer Rattler. I mean, well, Drake May can move a little bit, but still Drake May and then Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those stats will change a little bit by the end of that stretch.
Yeah. So I kind of want to switch now to Gregory Rousseau, but I'm going to go TJ Sanders. I think
like
he's
it.
going to have his welcome to the Bills party. All right, Luka. We'll be back to talk about all of it on Monday morning. Plus, we'll just spin it around the league, give updates from what happened in the Kansas City game. Give updates. I don't know what's going on with this guy. My cat jumped on my keyboard. Wanted to ask if you think the lack of Matt Milano will have any impact on the way the Bills defense will handle Milano trap game. Good question. The loss of Matt Milano is you're laughing. I know you know who this person is. The loss of Matt Milano is certainly one that is going to impact the Bills. But I think what we have seen in the past is that Dorian Williams is fully capable of stepping up and handling that role for a segment of weeks. I don't know if you could win a Super Bowl with Dorian Williams as your starting linebacker and feel really good about your defense, but to get you through 3-4 games, particularly this stretch, I think they'll be fine. And we didn't even talk about the fact, Luka, that Jalen Waddle is questionable. They haven't even seen Darren Waller since signing him. There's just not a lot of weapons. It's Tyreek, it's A-Chain. You got Benford to worry about Tyreek. You have the rest of the defense can focus on A-Chain. Safety's over the top on Tyreek, and you just dare him to beat you some other way. Take away to his first read. So I don't think this will be the game that the Bills miss Milano. I could be wrong, but I'm not overly worried about it. But as we mentioned earlier in the show, pay attention to whether the Bills put him on IR tomorrow or not. That'll be a clue on whether or not they think that the injury is serious or not. If they don't, then that's a good sign that it's only going to be a couple of weeks. All right, I'll be back tomorrow night for halftime. Hopefully it's a nice, fun, relaxing 20-point Bills lead at halftime, just like last week, where we can kind of kick our feet up and say, boy, this division rival sucks. Luka and I'll be back on Monday. And then, Luka, we're back at it again next Wednesday, getting ready for Spencer Rattler.
Woohoo!
And those New Orleans Saints and maybe future Buffalo Bills trade target Chris Olave. Yes, I have a list of receivers I want the Bills to trade for. He's on it. But for Luka, I am Josh McCarty. We'll talk to you next time on Bills Chat.